Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, we successfully create our first API with our this route as a API and the class. And here we successfully display two of these and we check it our this URL. So that is our get method, and here we successfully read all the data and visible it on here. So now I want to insert that data. Okay, that means with this I want to insert it. So if you want to insert that data, what exactly we have to do? In our controller, that means I have already created one of the controller as a S class controller. Into the S class controller, in our index method, with this index method I get all the data. So now I want to insert this data, right? So if you want to insert it, then you have to work in our this method, that means our store method. So into the store method, for insert that data, first of all I want to validate it. So if you want to validate that data, I think you already know about it, what exactly you have to do. So for validate data, first of all I want to take one of the variable as a validate data. Okay, I just take one of the variable as a validate data, and now with this request, okay, so you can actually get the things from Laravel official website. In Laravel documentation you will get it. Okay, so now I just simply define as a with this request, I just simply define that validate. Okay, I just simply define as a validate. So I just simply define that validate, and here we have to define that things with this array. So here first of all for our this table, so for our this table they have only one field, right? They have only one field as a class name. So I want to make the things as a required. So here I define that things. I just simply define our field name as a class. Okay, class underscore name. Make that sure that is actually the class underscore name. Okay, so that is our field name, and for this field I want to make the things some of the conditions. I want to first of all make the things as a required. Okay, I just simply define that as a required, and also I want to make the things as a unique. Okay, I just simply define as a unique, and it should be unique in our which table. It should be unique in our this table, that means in our S classes table. So that means this field, this data will be unique, okay, in our this table. So I just simply define as it should be as unique in our specific this table. And also here if you want to define some of the limitations like text limitation, I just simply define as a maximum 25 character. Okay, I just simply define as a 25 character. So for this field I just define that validation. This field will be as a required, this field will be unique, that means this will be as a unique in our this database table. And also for this field I just define some of the length, that means the character length limit as a 25. And now I want to do here, I define with our query builder. So better with this query builders I want to insert that data. So laterally I will also show you how can do the things with using that allocation model. So now for doing this I just simply define as a data and then array, right? So I have already discussed about that things with you. Now with this data you have to pass that your field. So with this data I just simply pass our field name as a class name. So now with this request, right, with this request we have to pass our this field name. So our field name as a this one, that means the class name. Perfect. And after that I want to insert it. So for insert that, first of all I want to take one of the variable as insert. Okay, I just take one of the variable, and now with the db and then table I want to insert this data in our which table. I want to insert it in our table name, that means the S class table, right? Here I want to insert it. So I just simply define our table name as a S classes, and now here I define our insert method. So I just simply define our insert method. It should be insert our this data. So here I just simply added that data. Perfect. I think everything is very much clear to you. And here when it should be insert, I want to show some of the message. So if you want to display some of the message, like here I define as a return response. Okay, return response, and here when it should be saved, then it should be show some of the data as a inserted successful. Okay, inserted successfully. So this type of one of the text it should be visible. After that is actually the semicolon. Perfect. And now if you want to hit this, like if you go to our APIs, into the APIs I have already created one of the route. So that is actually the route. Okay, so now if you want to check it, like here, I want to check it. If you go to our directory, and I just simply define as a cmd, and now first of all I want to check all that our route list. So if you want to display that route list, you have to define as a php artisan and then route and the list. And now if you click on the enter, now you can see by default it's creating that route. That means the API class for the index method and the API class is for the store method. Okay, I think you can well understand about it. That means our URL will be the same. That means our API class will be the same. Here you can see there is URL. So there is URL. It will be as a post method. So previously I have defined that get method, right, with the same URL. So now I have already defined all the things in our method. That means in our store method, and our URL will be the same as the API class, and it will be method will be as a post method. So now let's check this out with our postman. So that means here. So here our route URL will be the same, right? So I just simply copy it, and now I just click new request, and into the new request I just simply paste our this request, and now it will be as a post, right? So here I have already discussed about that things with you. Here you can see that is our URL will be the same. Now method will be the post method. So now I just simply define as a post method, and also in our header, into the header we have to define our key. So here I define that accept. So I just simply define that accept, and accept will be as a application JSON. That means here that is our application JSON, and also we have to define that content type. That means they are actually the content type. So I just simply define that content type, and content type will be also as a application JSON. Perfect. So now we want to insert that data. We want to insert, if you want to insert it, then you have to go to that body. Into the body there is a xww form. So here you have to select it, and now here first of all you have to define our field name. So our field name, and that is actually the class name, right? So now in particular that field I want to insert some of the value. So here first of all you have to define your field name, our field name as a class underscore name. And here I have to define that value. So here I want to do before that is a 1, 2, and now I want to insert another value as a 3. Okay, so I just simply define as a 3. So now that is our post method, that is our URL. So there's same URL, and now if you click on the send, and here it's not showing our message. Maybe I didn't save it. Okay, you can see I didn't save it. So now I just click on the save all. Because when it will be saved, then it will be show some of the message as a this message as a response insert successfully. So when this message will be displayed, then our data will be inserted. Like if you now go here, click on the browse, you can see our data is not inserted. Now let's check this out again. So I didn't actually save it, so now just save it, and now go here, sorry, our postman here. Now I want to send that request again, so that will be as a post. Perfect. So that's URL, and here I define that value, so this value will be inserted. Now let's check this out. I just click on the send, and here it's now showing some of the message as a some of the unexpected data. That means that here in our SAS controller maybe I defined something wrong. So now let's check this out. Here that is our restore method. Here I define that validate. You can see I didn't add that semicolon, so here it should be some of the semicolon. Okay, so I miss it, and then our data everything perfect. Now let's check this out. If you get any error, we'll solve it, don't worry about it. I just click on the save all again, and now I just want to check it again. So that is our request, the post method, and now I want to insert that value as a 3. Now click on the send again. Yes, now you can see now is showing our this message as a inserted successfully. So here I define that return. So when this data will be insert, then it should be returned this response, this message as insert successful. So now you can see it's now perfectly getting that data. So now let's check this out. This data is inserted it or not. So if you go to our database table, and here now I just browse it. Yes, now you can see there is a ID 3 and there is a class 3 is successfully inserted that data in our this database table. And also now if you want to check it with our get method, like before that was 2. So now I want to send it request again. Now you can see it's now perfectly getting our 3 data. So that is our 3 data. So now if you want to insert another one, so here I want to insert another one, like I just click on the copy, and now I open it again. I just define that our this class, and here I define as a post method, and now in our header we have to define that as a accept. Okay, and also our content type. So I just simply define that contain, and content type it will be as a application JSON, also the application JSON. And now in our body in particular that position we have to define our field name as a class CLASS underscore name, right? So make that sure it is correct, because that is actually the CLASS underscore name. So I just simply define a class name. I want to define some of the value as a 4. Okay, now I want to insert that value. Click on the send. Yeah, inserted successfully. So now if you go here, browse it again, you can see it's inserted successfully this 4 data. So we successfully insert it, and now if you also want to check it again with our get request, click on the send. Yeah, you can see there is another is added as a 4. Perfect. So friend, I think step by step it's become very clear, right? So don't worry, it will become more clear to you. So now we successfully getting all the data, and also we successfully insert that data. So now if you want to edit it, if you want to delete it, so how can do that work? Better I want to continue this process. In our next video, I will show you how can edit this data and also how can delete this data. Then it will become more clear to you. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.